Chapter 1: Skill Development. One of the first things that basketball coaches need to think about is skill development. Improving your team's skill is imperative for the development, growth, and success of your program. There are no perfect players in a game of basketball. All players have weaknesses, even the best players in the world. Some weaknesses are just easier to see if the players have received poor skill development training. Without improving their skills, players will struggle and ultimately the team will suffer over the course of a season. Opposing teams will observe and learn your players' weaknesses and use those weaknesses to their advantage on the court. The key to skill development is practice. The more regular and frequent the practice, the better your players will become. A challenge many coaches experience is that they do not have practices every single day. Early in the season, practices are frequent, often Monday through Friday, with some Saturdays. But as the season progresses, practice time becomes less frequent as the team begins playing games. Without working with your players daily, skills will deteriorate and players can lose more ground. Most skill development happens in the off-season. During the season, coaches and the teams are so focused on practicing plays and strategic elements that skill development can be an afterthought. As a coach, your job is to highlight skill development in practices on a regular basis. Of course, during the season, skill work will be more maintenance than growth because your girls will need to stay sharp each and every day for practice and games. Motivating players. Instilling a passion in your team is important when getting the team to work on skill development, even when there are no mandatory practices. Players need to be motivated to work on the necessary skills to make themselves better during the season and in the off-season. As a coach, you have to paint the picture of success for your players. Remind them that this is a discipline through which they will become better players and that the whole team benefits from that. Remind them of your team's goal for the season. How will you get there? Practice. By getting better each day, each girl can work and do their very best while aiming at success. Emphasize to your girls the importance of completing each drill the best way they can. If a player messes up and dribbles off her foot, make her go back to the place of her mistake and have her continue the drill from that point. This habit teaches them that each drill should be completed to the best of their ability, and even if they blunder, they should restart where the mistake occurred and try again. There is no harm in failing. There is only harm in selling oneself short and not trying again. Your players should be self-motivated enough, especially if they tried out and made the team, that they will be working to improve their craft on their own. However, not all of your players will be as self-motivated as you would like. Some will need help. What do you do then? Let's say you have a freshman girl who has great talent and athleticism, but she is lacking the drive towards skill development. Because of her talent, she can get away without working on skill because she has dominated opponents with the abilities she has been given naturally. To motivate her, sit down with her and cast your vision. Where do you see this girl in 4 years on your team? Will she be an all-state player? MVP of the league? How will she achieve these goals? Working on her penetration to the rim. Focusing more on learning the plays? Staying out of trouble? Playing hard on both sides of the ball? Becoming a defensive stopper? The honor of coaching high school players is that you have the opportunity to help mold them into what they will be for the rest of their basketball lives. Wow, that is a lot of pressure. You can make or break a girl in the way you cast vision and teach skill. Ball handling. Training in ball handling is essential when it comes to the game of girls basketball. When it comes to ball handling, teams that lack creativity and diversity in their lineup are usually stymied as the game progresses. Over the course of the game, teams begin to figure out each other. Ball handling should be practiced every day that you have your team together. Without regular, consistent work, ball handling is a skill that can become very rusty. Success in basketball depends on players who can get to the basket and create opportunities for their team. Without players who penetrate the paint and create space for others, an offense becomes static and has a hard time succeeding. As players move up and down the court, teach your players to be in control of the ball. Some players might be able to go faster than others. Make sure to tell your players they are not competing against each other. This is not a race to see who finishes first. It is a discipline through which your girls get better each day. There are many ball handling drills that a coach can use. Some involve the basics of dribbling up and down the court, working on a variety of dribbles and combinations. These drills could include left and right hand dribbles, crossovers, in-out dribbles, behind the back, two-ball dribbling, and between the legs. One drill that can be enjoyable while working on the principles of dribbling and protecting the basketball is called four-team collision. To run this drill, 1. Place 4 cones in a 10-foot square. 2. Divide the teams up into 3 or 4 players on each square. Have each team stand together on one side of the square, so that, depending on the team size, you'll have 12 to 16 girls involved in this drill. 3. When you say go, each team will dribble to the other side of the square and back, while protecting the ball from the other players. If a team loses the ball, they must retrieve it and start where they lost the ball. 4. When each team member has dribbled the ball across and back twice, she must sit down on their side. The first team with all of its players sitting down is the winner. The last team to sit down loses. This can be a teaching moment for the losing team. You can pull them aside, talk with them about the difficulties they ran into, and start the drill again with the remaining teams. Another option is to start another drill with the losing team, or have the losing team shoot 3 throws. The drill will continue until there is one team remaining. An additional skill that can be included in this drill is having players pivot each time they cross the side of the square, working on back or front pivots. This is a great skill to use in a game when a player is pressed by a defensive player, and they need to reposition themselves for a shot or pass. Shooting. Shooting can be a real obstacle for a girls' basketball team, because without shooting skills, they can't score. Unfortunately, all basketball players bring bad habits with them when it comes to shooting the basketball. Some of these habits include no follow-through after shooting, not using the guide hand in a shot, and creating a sideways spin on the basketball rather than an underspin. Have your girls work on one-handed shooting to start with. This might seem like an unusual concept, but it allows for fewer problems to get in the way when shooting, while allowing them to perfect the important elements of their shot. To run a one-handed shooting drill, 1. Have the players stand as close to the basket as possible without standing directly under the rim. Being close to the rim allows the players to establish good habits, such as good shooting form. 2. Each girl will use her dominant hand to shoot, while her guide hand can be placed behind her back. 3. As each girl shoots one-handed, have them use the acronym BEEF, which will help them remember the 4 important elements of shooting: balance, eyes, elbow, follow-through. Balance. The B in beef stands for balance. Many basketball players struggle to balance themselves when shooting, often because of watching the pros shoot off of one foot or fading backwards as they shoot. Poor balance can cause their shot to be misguided when they shoot or cause the shooter to miss the basket completely. When shooting, the player's feet should be shoulder width. This is called her stance. The foot on the same side as the player's shooting hand needs to be a little bit in front of the other, which helps stabilize the player. Eyes. E in beef stands for eyes. A shooter needs to aim her shot, and by looking at the same part of the basketball hoop every time she shoots, she can improve this skill. A great place to look is either at the back of the rim or one of the hooks at the front of the rim that holds the net on the hoop. Practicing this every time will help your players gain consistency and confidence. Elbow. The second E stands for elbow. Have players make sure their shooting elbow is at an angle of about 90 degrees when they aim to shoot the basket. Another way to help with this technique is for the player to place the basketball in the crook of their elbow, holding the ball in place. This should create the 90-degree angle the player needs and helps her achieve reliability in her shot. Follow-through. The F in beef stands for follow-through. Following through after the shot is paramount. The player should not let the follow-through down until the ball has hit the rim or swished through the net. Just like in golf or tennis, a follow-through gives the stroke extra distance, a better arc, and a straighter trajectory. Notice that with a good follow-through, players are not pushing the ball at the hoop. The motion of the shot needs to go straight up in the air, as opposed to pushing the ball, which will cause a misguided shot. Defense. The great Alabama football coach Bear Bryant once said, "Offense sells tickets, and defense wins championships." Basketball, in the professional ranks, is a glamorous game because of the way players shoot to score. For many teams in the National Basketball Association, NBA, defense comes secondary to offense. This way of play makes the game flashy and exciting for its fans, who pay good money to see the finest basketball players in the world do what they do best. Unfortunately, this style of play has trickled all the way down to the high school ranks, where players just want to shoot three-pointers like Steph Curry. Don't mistake the message for a mandate in the high school arena. Offense is an important part of the game. However, players who only focus on offense leave their teams high and dry when it comes to defense. Many coaches want to see how fast their team can score the basketball, instead of focusing on both facets of the game, offense and defense. There are many ways to practice defense with your girls' basketball team. Working on simple stance and slide movements will help your girls mimic the elements of defense in practice, so they will be ready for gameplay. One drill that is key in putting emphasis on defense over offense is the Duke Defensive Privilege, created by Coach Mike Krzyzewski. This drill highlights defense in three ways: defensive rebounding, steals, and drawing a charge. This is a fast-moving drill that requires communication, teamwork, and defensive principles that tie right into real game situations. To run this drill, 1. Create 3 even teams of 3, 4, or 5 players. One team will sit out. One will start on offense, and the last team will be on defense. 2. As the teams play against each other, they score in this way. Defensive rebounds receive 1 point for the team. Steals, or turnovers, receive 2 points for the team. And drawing a charge gives a team 3 points. 3. A team wins when they earn between 7 and 11 points. Coaches can decide how long they want this drill to go on. A defensive team stays on the floor if they earn any points. The defensive team goes off if they follow the offensive team or get scored on. When the defensive team gets kicked off the court, the offensive team goes to defense, and the team still sitting out will become the new offensive team. Strategy. Every coach needs a clear strategy when coaching girls basketball. Strategy helps you define your approach to the game, and it creates an identity for you as the coach and for the team. Every year is a new challenge to learn the best ways to make your team effective and efficient. Having a team identity can help communication with your players. They know what your team is all about, and the expectations you have for them as a team are clear. You may prefer an up-tempo style, where the defense picks up their opponent at full court while looking to push the ball in transition. Some coaches may not be fond of this style because of the number of baskets they may give up in the process. Instead, you may be a coach who packs players into the paint and does not allow the offense to get in. On offense, you may prefer to slow the pace and run your plays to perfection. These are 2 strategies of many when it comes to your team identity. Find what works for your team. It is usually best not to use strategies that you would not be comfortable using yourself as a player. However, you need to be able to work to your team's strengths even if those strengths do not tend towards strategies more familiar to you. If you have a lot of natural athletes on the team, you may want to get out and run. However, if you need to protect some of your weaker players on the court that could hurt the team, you may need to disguise your plays to get the most out of your players with more skill. Do you have a lot of post players? Work on getting the ball into the paint. Maybe you have great guards. Get them out in transition and see what they can create for your team. Make sure your players know the strategies of the team. Consider giving a 3-ring binder to each player and coach on the team. This binder may include offensive, defensive, end of out of bounds, and side-out plays with late game situations included. You may want to add other helpful information, such as quotes and the rules of basketball, to help your players grasp the team strategy. Expect your players to know not only what they should be doing on the court, but also what others on the court are doing when they are on the bench. This communication is helpful for a lot of reasons. Knowing what other players are doing for a certain play will help bring out better chemistry, and in the case of an injury, a player may have to fill a spot that they are not normally accustomed to playing.